This week's Lasso Work Cedar Coach of the Week and final Coach of the Week for the season is Lee Woudstra. Lee's Lady Aztecs won the championship this week, but that's not what makes him Coach of the Week. First of all, they won in overtime and sudden death for the second week in a row, but if you watch the video of the winning shot, Lee doesn't do a victory lap. He just drops to his knees at the level of those girls and just loves on them. And his job of coaching combined with his job of just class that he shows in winning that game and working this season was unbelievable. Lee, congratulations, Coach of the Week.
This week's Player of the Week goes to 5th and 6th grade Zachary Johnson of the Huskies team. Coach RJ and Janae says that Zachary sees the court in a way that others don't. Not only does he give his all, both in the games and practices, but he also has a heart for making sure other team members get the ball. This past game, Zachary's job was to pass someone the ball who hasn't made a shot all season long. Zachary passed the ball and passed the ball and passed the ball, and sometimes he's more excited about others having success than him. Zachary, great job. You are this week's Player of the Week. All right, welcome to episode 9 of Winning It with the Home Team. This is a debrief of our basketball season. We just finished basketball. Let's see, today is Wednesday, so on Saturday, I believe. We both have had a chance to take a little breather, somewhat, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, a part of just completing this season well is debriefing what all of this looks like. And we mainly want to tell stories of just the people that we ran into and encountered, and mainly the coaches. And every person that said yes on a game day consistently. So,
yeah, it strikes me just off the top talking about coaches, because this was my first swim through as an employee. And I remember before the season started, even before Christmas, and looking at the board and thinking, there's no way we're going to get enough coaches. There's no way. There's no way. And you kept saying, don't worry. Don't worry. And then even after that, like, we developed this list of coaches, and I would look on the wall and I knew maybe 4 or 5 names. That's it. And it amazed me that you knew every single person.
Well, not every single person.
Well, almost every single person.
Yeah.
To me, it seemed like that. Yeah. And then you just had so much knowledge, and I'm thinking, that's crazy. Like, she is so good at what she does. And then once you go through the season and the relationships that you develop, I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. But I have thoroughly enjoyed my first season.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, we have a basketball league. Basketball, our kids' basketball league is January, February. There's a lot of work that happens in November and December to prepare for that. But literally, it's our biggest season of the entire year. And the purpose in that is we want kids to have a positive sports experience. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we created this podcast was to give a voice to that. Like, we want the family to win. And of course, kids are involved in family, right? And sports just plays a huge role in that. Like, that's our jobs, and that's what we have voice to. And so basketball is a big deal. During the last game on Saturday, during the halftime, little spill, I told families over and over again, I'm going to miss seeing the faces. We January, February, like, it is 100 miles an hour. It seems like every single day in January and February. Yeah. If we're not at practices, we're at games and things like that, and we enjoy it. Like, that's where friendships are built. Right. And I don't say that like, I hope that people hear the sincerity in my heart when they interacted with us, right? Because I sent that last coach's email out on Sunday, and I told them, listen, I know that life goes on, but we don't want to, end the friendship that was built this season. And we just value our coaches so much because without them, this league does not happen, right? Without their intentionality, without their patience, right? Like it's it's not a league at all. It's not a league that I want to present to our community.
No, not at all. And, we had the conversation the other day. I told you, in no way was I expecting to get to the point where I had all these new names in my phone. And it's coaches, and it's not coaches that I'm sending something to say, hey, can I get this from you or can I get that from you? It has nothing to do with basketball. Like, I sent out a text just this morning to several coaches talking about Joseph and everything that he endured. And yet God was right beside him the whole way. And, and I get these responses back, and like literally there are relationships that have been built that I would call these guys my friend at this point. At the beginning of the season, not having done this before, I never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
There's just so much that you travel together with these coaches, and you see the kind of, not only the kind of coach they are, but the kind of men and women that you have in your league. And you're just, it's really inspiring. It really is.
Yep.
So what do you got? Who blew you away this year?
Yeah. So the purpose of this podcast really is to brag on the people that we were around the most, which are the coaches. We had some virtues that coaches did devotions on. One of the virtues was win it. So we talked about win it with teamwork, win it with sportsmanship, and win it with sacrifice. And those are not necessarily, we're not talking about like basketball things, but more so like character and, life skills. Another virtue that we have was press on with focus and press on with endurance. And then lastly, we had comeback, and we talked about just the passion and the faith that is required when you are going for a comeback. So I'm going to take kindergarten for a second.
Okay.
And just, brag on the 4 kindergarten coaches that we have. I've said this before, kinder is my favorite age to ref, right? Because they're all, little babies, who can't, chew gum and walk at the same time, nevertheless dribble. But one of the new coaches that we had this year was Christine Walton. She was the coach of the Gators. And the most memorable story that I have about Christine was she was on the sideline. Now, kindergarten is the only grade in which coaches are allowed on the floor, right? But this particular quarter, Christine was on the bench, and she had a stuffed animal sitting on her knee. Right. This is kindergarten.
Okay. All right. I'm with you.
And I looked over to her daughter, Alice, and Alice, was, doing the eye to eye thing, and she said, "Mom, make sure that he watches me play basketball."
That's awesome.
And I'm thinking, you know what? This is kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like, this is kindergarten basketball. Right. And I looked over to Christine and I said, "You've got one job, one job. And that one job is to make sure that stuffed animal watches Alice as she runs down the court." So,
did it stay the whole game?
I think that was the second half, and I think it ended up staying on Christine's knee.
There you go.
The whole half.
Yeah.
And I would look over there and make sure that stuffed animal was on her knee.
Yeah.
So she won it with sportsmanship, just having the right attitude, understanding the assignment in kindergarten basketball.
How can you hear that and not want to be a part of this league? Like, that is awesome. I love that.
She understood that, not to take herself seriously.
Yeah.
And her job was to watch that stuffed animal watch her child's game.
That's great.
That was what was most important.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how her daughter felt loved. And to that, I say, you are loved, Alice.
That's right.
You are loved.
Absolutely.
Another one that I had, Jeff Ward. I love the Ward family.
Yeah, they're great.
Jeff and Taylor, Graham and Dawson, such a cool family. Jeff he coached kinder, so he coached Dawson, his kindergarten, and then he also refed his oldest son's division, Graham, who did not play basketball this year. He just chose to help out with his brother's kindergarten team. And so Jeff was there at 8:15 every Saturday for 8 weeks. Then Todd, he left his this was his routine. He left the LC and he usually went over to Oak Ridge, I believe, to watch a friend's game, Cliff's game, over at Oak Ridge. And then after that, this was their routine. After Oak Ridge, they went to Chick-fil-A and got lunch.
Yeah.
And then he usually went home for a nap. And then he came back at about 4:30, and Jeff Ward reffed every single third grade game this season.
Yeah.
5 o'clock game, the 6 o'clock game, and the 7 o'clock game.
Right.
And he did not get paid for it.
Yeah. For any of it.
This man, this family, not just this man, but this family, they understood the assignment. And, in that, it's just for fun. They understood loving each other well. They served us so well. Yeah. And Jeff was a tremendous ref, and he also was a tremendous coach.
Yeah, for sure. What a great man. I mean, I don't know that he won Coach of the Week at any point this year, but he probably deserves like something of the year. Yeah. I feel like.
Yeah, literally. Like I wish, about 2 weeks ago, I was wondering, can I get him he and Jesse Cantu like a pair of like running shoes or something,
right.
like for the amount of time that they spent on our gym floor reffing games, voluntarily, not getting paid,
Yeah.
I mean, I paid them in Gatorades, but that was about it,
right.
and I gladly took that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there was another kindergarten coach, Erin Madison, the Madison family. She coached the Hurricanes. She pressed on through endurance because she's pregnant. And there were just some tough mornings there where, you know what, she wanted to literally go throw up, but instead she pressed on, right? And she pressed on well. She loved those kindergartners and their families well. And one of the things that I will never get tired of seeing on Saturday mornings at about 8:45 is, all the balls are put up, and on their bench. Kindergarten is the only grade that plays short court, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they were, every single coach and every single player usually was sitting on the floor, on the gym floor, circled together, doing their devotion.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Now, it may have been peer pressure, but because, once you see one team doing
right.
it. But regardless, like I saw Aaron doing that over and over again.
Yeah.
Saw all of them doing that. And I'm so impressed by her heart. By her endurance. It was really, really good. And then lastly, for the kindergarten coaches, we have the coach, Ashley, and coach Matt, Matt Hunter. So Ashley Taylor and Matt Hunter, they have a ton of passion.
Yeah.
Ashley
for life.
Yeah,
for life.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And that's who we want, coaching kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Christine who's babysitting a stuffed animal, and then you've got Ashley and Matt, who are cheering their hearts out for these kindergartners to go and score the ball, or at least dribble the ball, not run with it.
Yeah.
So, man, we had some excellent kindergarten coaches.
So for that, what makes me laugh is you have all these parents that are like, man, I got to start my kid off, early, like 4 or 5 years old, and get them into athletics. And then when you do that in our league, you get to watch stuffed animals, watch the kids playing. I like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if you've never been to a kindergarten basketball game, you are missing out.
You're missing it, dude.
Oh my gosh.
You're missing it.
So to have coaches that are willing to step into that and try to bring some kind of system to it is just
system.
Yeah.
System.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All the rules that we set up and give in the coaches training about, playing time and all those things. Listen, you're just lucky to be out on the court and a wristband on on your kid.
Everything goes out the window in the first quarter of the first game.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's awesome.
The first grade division was it was equally first grade and third grade was the largest two divisions that were at the LC.
Yeah.
And I think the first grade coaches they had quite the assignment, right? Because it was the first time that they were going full court, right?
Yeah.
And they're first graders. So whereas in third grade, they're still learning their coordination. Mm-hmm. First grade, they literally have no idea what they're doing still, right? Yeah. And they're being tasked with going full court.
Right.
So we had 6 teams. Mm-hmm. Brady Lowe gets the Passion Award.
Yeah.
He was a first-time coach, and I remember I think it was Game 5, and he was on the bench, and he was undefeated. These Aztecs undefeated, right? And they were going up against Diego and the Pirates, who were also undefeated. Yeah. And Brady comes up to me, first-year coach. He's undefeated going into this game. first grade, and he goes, "Man, like this is going to be a good game. Like this is going to be the game, like the game of the game of the season."
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "You are so passionate. You are so passionate
For first grade basketball.
First grade."
Yeah.
And you know what? And you know what? You know, I'm here for it. He has that heart, right? And then his assistant coach, on the other hand, they balanced each other out so well.
Yeah.
Because Jonathan, he's a big teddy bear.
Right.
And I could just look over at him and he would smile. Whereas Brady was yelling every single direction, what to go, where's your color, all those things.
Right.
There was so much, passion in both of them.
Yeah.
I was just super impressed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I met Brady at practices, and I totally see that in him. I wish I would have seen him in games.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
His wife said that he was not sure that he wanted to coach.
Yeah.
But I can assure you, he is the most passionate coach that we've had in the first grade.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And his little girl is so cute.
Oh, yeah.
So cute. She's a baller for sure. But yeah, she's good. The other one, the Cougars, first grade Cougars, Vernon, Riley, and Edward. Man, those guys. That's another group of coaches that really understood the assignment.
Yeah.
One of the stories that I had with them was, I think it was two weeks ago, when they had a full roster. They had 9.
Yeah.
9 Cougars dressed in purple, ready to rock. And the other team that they were playing, the Bulldogs, they only had like 4 at start time.
Right.
And, Vernon said, "You know what, let's just, I'll give you 2 of my players." And so that was the most fun game I think I've been a part of in the first grade division, because they were just kids and they didn't care,
Yeah.
They didn't care whose team that they were on. They just wanted to have fun.
Right.
And that was really awesome. Vernon also reffed 2 games pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And was just a huge asset for us.
Let me tell you something about Vernon and just in general. As you're going down the list and you're naming these coaches, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's a good coach. Oh yeah, that's a good coach.
Yeah.
And I fear that during this podcast, I'm just going to be like, oh, what a great man, what a great man. And I'm going to say it over and over. But like Vernon is. He is, right?
He's so chill.
He is so chill. And but what a good, where I come from, the best compliment you give another man is you just go, "Good dude." Good dude.
Yeah.
Vernon is a good dude.
Yeah.
I love that guy. And another great family, by the way.
Yeah.
So common
Cutest
theme.
little girls.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yep.
For sure. I mentioned the Pirates and Diego and Michael. They were an undefeated team as well. Let me mention the Pirates and the Aztecs tied, right?
Okay.
So no one lost that game.
Yeah.
Diego, man, he gets the Press On with Focus award. I cannot tell you how many times Diego and Michael both said, "Pass the ball." Pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball.
Yeah.
Man, like, and I was amazed at how first graders pass the ball so much.
Really?
Seriously, like they're like.
Did he show them the movie Hoosiers before the game? started?
Perhaps. He's a tennis guy.
Right.
He's a tennis coach.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But he really understood that, to get shots, you pass the ball. And I think that that's what made his team so successful.
Yeah.
Was because they passed the ball and they listened, among other things. So cannot say enough about Diego and Michael. And then there were the Bulldogs, Katie and Susan Taylor. Katie grew up in this program. She played basketball and coached her 2 twin little sisters, Caroline and Elizabeth. And so Susan has been, in the basketball league, her mom for, I don't know, literally a long time. I don't know. Yeah. Katie, I think now is either a 9th grader or a 10th grader. Like she had a wide variety of players on her team. And she did a great job of making sure that they had fun. And that's what I enjoyed most about her for sure.
Yeah.
We got the Hurricanes that were next. The Hurricanes, Mr. Lance Hell and Will Stevenson.
Yeah.
Lance is such a good dude. He
Yes.
used to work at the LC. He's a teacher at ACA. Lance gets the Press On with Endurance award.
Yeah.
He had several girls on his team, and he also had some boys and girls in which they'd never played. Like that was their first time playing. And he was so patient with them.
Yeah.
So patient, so encouraging. And he also gave the refs and myself a lot of grace. And for that, I'm very appreciative.
I'm a huge fan of Lance because nothing gets Lance, like seemingly nothing gets under his skin. He's able to just handle things with such grace like you're talking about. And I watch that guy and I'm like, man, I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
I cannot do what Lance Hell does. And by the way, we're talking about all these people and the coaching job they do, and they all have real jobs.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
yeah.
It's a commitment to come up here and coach these kids, but Lance is one of the best teachers. My kids have gone through and had Lance, as a teacher, and talk about caring for kids. It translates. Like he goes to work and does his job in the school, and then he comes home and changes into a Superman outfit, and then comes up here and coaches, and it's the same level. I watch him practice, and God, what a great guy! What a great guy!
Yeah,
good dude.
He
good
is
dude.
Another good dude. Chase Johnson.
Yes.
Chase Johnson and Andrew.
Yes.
They had a first grade Gators team.
Yeah.
They get the Press On with Focus award. I watched Chase, not just this year, but last year too. I watched him lead practice, and he is so intentionally patient with those kids,
right?
Both first and third grade. He had several girls on his team, and he was so. Girls are coached differently, right, than boys.
Yeah.
And Chase understood that assignment,
right?
When it came to girls, he was locked in. When it came to coaching, those girls, and those boys, and he had some good boys as well.
Yeah.
Andrew, this is his first time in the league, and he has such a sweet family.
Yeah.
His wife and 2 girls. I've really enjoyed getting to know them. Also love, Abby Johnson and Owen and Cooper. They're
great
cute.
family.
I'll miss them for sure.
Yeah.
And the icing on the cake for me was when, Chase practiced 2-stepping the last game during the third grade boys game.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was happy to have the season over with or if he just went back from to
just Tarleton days.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. So that's kinder and first.
Very good. So for me, and I've already talked about, this was just eye-opening for me. Last year, I was the commissioner over 5th and 6th grade boys. And so stepping over this year to Oak Ridge, where we had 4th grade boys and 5th and 6th grade girls.
And a new venue.
Yeah. It was a lot. But I'll tell you what I'm most thankful for at that venue is getting to watch the 5th and 6th grade girls. I have such a newfound respect for those girls and how they play the game. And I think it should be mandatory that our 5th and 6th grade boys go watch the 5th and 6th grade girls play basketball. They are tenacious.
Yeah.
They get after it.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, it is fun to watch.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting with 5th and 6th grade girls here because we only had 4 teams in 5th and 6th grade girls. And I'm starting at the top, our champions and Lee Wildstra with the Aztecs. That guy, I talked about Lance Hell is, he just kind of holds it together and seemingly nothing gets to him. And when I first met Lee, Lee's like, I don't know, 8'7".
Yeah, he's tall.
He's so tall, a little bit intimidating with his height. And he just doesn't take himself serious.
Nope.
On the court, his daughter plays on his team and you wouldn't know it. He doesn't get way high or way low. Yeah. He's just right there.
Even kill.
Yeah. And so their team wins the championship game in sudden death overtime.
For the second week in a row.
For the second week in a row.
Yeah.
They hit the shot that wins the championship. And I went back and I watched the video of that shot, which was a great shot, by the way. And I watched him in particular, and he wasn't running circles around the gym or anything like that. Immediately, he goes to his girls. And that is what he did all year.
And he got down on his knees.
Yes. Yes.
That spoke volumes to me.
Yes.
The girl shot the shot, made it. he walks out and got down on his knees to be on their level.
Yeah.
Like that spoke volumes.
100%.
Yeah.
For Lee, it's not about Lee. And there's a reason why, that team started the beginning of the year and they were okay. They were good.
Yeah.
But they end up defeating an undefeated team in the championship game. And I credit a lot of that. And I don't know, maybe it's X's and O's, Lee. Maybe you did something that no one else had the formula on. But more importantly, I think it's the way you develop those girls. And man, I couldn't say enough about Lee. And the team that he beat in the championship game was Jason Smith and the Huskies. And
love that guy.
So good. So good. And Jason Smith, to his credit, he probably could have won every game in the regular season by 50 points.
100%.
I mean, that's how talented his roster was. Thanks in part to his own girls, by the way, who are just phenomenal basketball players. But every week I watched Jason, and I don't think people notice this, but he would pull back a little bit, or, he would tell his girls, hey, let's slow down. He constantly was worried about that. And I don't think that's something that even other coaches saw. But it's something that he and I had conversations about, or, I would hear on the bench while he was on the bench. But he was very cognizant of the fact that he had a loaded team. And to his credit, and I thought this was one of the best things that happened all year, was after they lost that championship game, his response was, that's probably something they needed more than winning that game.
Yeah, he also messaged me that as well.
Yeah.
He said that's probably one of the best things that could have happened to his two daughters was to deal with that loss the way that it happened.
That is perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you want out of your coach.
Not, not complaining, not, saying the refs didn't do X, Y, and Z. Not that he would do that,
No,
right?
no.
But yeah, to handle it in a way that he did was, it was first class.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And then, of course, Kevin Blankenship, his team did not win this year. Not one time. And right up until the very last game, I even mentioned it when we started the game. He was coaching right before the game started. He had those girls over there, and he was going over stuff.
He gives it his all.
100.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of that. And I couldn't help but get out before we started the game and point that out to everybody. I think that to me, it was sad for the girls. I know that they were sad that they didn't win a game this year. And we try as a league to make sure that we're doing things to prevent that from happening. But you would not have known it by watching that coach coach those girls.
Yeah.
And he is all in. We all know what we mean when we say a player's coach, right?
Yeah.
Kevin is a player's coach.
Yeah.
Like, he's all about those girls. And I just have tremendous respect for that.
Yeah. Didn't you tell me a story this season of how Kevin called a timeout just to get on the court and show his girls?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
So they were running a zone defense, and he called a timeout, and it was early in the first half.
Yeah.
Like early in the first quarter, and he saw what needed to happen. So typically, you see the timeout called, and then the coach will wait for the girls to come over. They'll draw something up on the board or whatever, or just have a conversation. He literally went onto the court, lined them up, and was coaching them on the court during the timeout. Yeah. And I don't know that I've seen that done before.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, it was tremendous. So he's just a great coach. And then Andre Ross, our fourth team in that division, he had a good team. But Andre is the kind of guy that, like, he's so soft-spoken, and he is so just good-natured that sometimes I wanted to say, Andre, like, you got to get fired up about this call, And I found myself thinking, wow, he's doing exactly what we ask our coaches to do. Better than me, and I'm not even coaching. And the more I got to know Andre, he's one of those coaches I told you that has become a friend, that I sent a text message to today. Like, he is just a great all-around guy. And those girls responded to him because he wasn't tongue-lashing them ever. He was just coaching them, very matter-of-fact. And they responded to that. And so, again, a lot of respect. Yeah. Good dude.
Yeah, even in conversations, I can pick up on his heart, and his heart is always in a good place.
Right.
Right. And you can tell if a coach is just giving you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that, right? But not this guy.
And it also helped that Andre brought like 30 people to every game, like everybody in the family.
Does he get the award for the biggest fan section?
Yes. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Anaya and those girls, like they had a huge support system. That was, it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So 5th and 6th girls, like I'm a
That's
fan.
good.
I'm a fan.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a fan, so I'm glad that you are,
Right.
that you're on board now for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I think this was the first season that I had not reffed 5th and 6th girls. So I missed that, but I'm glad that you experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun.
That's good.
What else you got?
Second grade. Yeah. Second grade, we had 4 teams. RJ, start off with RJ. So RJ Shorter coached a second grade team, which his son was on, Kaza. And then he coached a 4th grade boys team, which I'm sure you'll mention.
Yep.
And then he coached 5th and 6th grade boys team. So he had 3 teams. And boy, I felt like he brought that passion to every single one of his teams.
Yeah.
For sure, second grade. For second grade. He had the Wolverines team, and he was just his passion. Come back with passion, and that's what describes RJ. Is he is just filled with passion,
right?
And he loves the kids, and I'm just so glad he's a part of this league. He and his wife and his kids, they're great people,
right?
For sure,
right? Absolutely.
Yep. So this next one, Eric Gonzalez and Stephen Hayes, they coach the second grade Pirates. Eric is such a great guy. He gets the Press On with Focus Award because that's another one that understood the assignment. I can't tell you how many times, Todd, I would look over at his huddle, and the first thing that he would say and the last thing that he would say at almost every game was, okay, we're going to have fun, right? Did you guys have fun? Did you have fun? Right? Yeah. I mean, the focus was never on the score at all. Right. I mean, it was just about literally having fun. Yeah. Yeah. There was one game where he played the Huskies, and that's Guy's team, Guy and Cliff's team. Guy is Bella's grandfather, and another great coach, Guy and Cliff. Yeah. Guy called a timeout. I think that this was in the 5th game. And he pulled his team aside and said, hey, we want to let a little guy on Eric's team get a shot, the opposing team. And so Cliff called a timeout, and at the LC, there's all about guarding your color, right? Yeah. But how do you tell a second grader when you have been coaching them all year, hey, go guard your color, to now, oh, hey, don't guard your color. Yeah, that. Like, what? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And so he pulled the kid aside, and I have a picture of Guy on his knee with his little guy right here next to him, so that the opposing team could go down and shoot a basket. And the guy didn't make it, but it was the thought that counted, right? And like, that's just who Guy is. Yeah. Yeah. His focus was spot on. It never was about winning games, but it was all about making sure those kids developed skill, and had a good time. Yeah. It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Guy's great. Love Guy.
And then there's Jared. Jared had 2 teams. 2 teams. Man, Jared Phillips and Jess Phillips, they're 2 boys, Micah and Liam. Jared coached both of them. Micah was his second grade team, and God, man, he's good as gold. Yeah. That's another one, Todd, who coached. He went to Oak Ridge first for a 4th grade boys game. And then he went back to the LC, and sometimes in between his second game, he would ref the game before that. Yeah. Coach his son, and then sometimes ref 1 or 2 games after that. Right. So this is a guy he's a dear friend of mine. His whole family is. But like, he just gets the teamwork, sportsmanship, focus, passion, all of it. Yeah, like,
all mixed together.
He is such a helper. And if you guys could just understand for a second, like, we're at the LC from 7:30 in the morning until, was it 8:30 at night? And then Oak Ridge from, 9 to 3:30. 3:30, yeah. And then ABU, from about 8:15 to like 1:30. And so for coaches to jump on board and not only coach their team, but also ref, like, that's a game changer. Yeah. Like it's hard to find that in anybody. Right. And in saying that, there's no shade in coaches that didn't do that, right? Right. At all. But so appreciated. When guys like Jared, they just know that, hey, we're going to jump into this with Todd and Katrina, and we're going to be here at the LC or at another gym for 8 weeks for, like, that's going to be our day.
Yeah.
And it's a game changer. So I really appreciate Jared.
Yeah. And on top of all of it, then they're behind us, supporting us and saying, hey, I know y'all are tired, but keep going. And it's like, and you got to be just as tired as we are.
Exactly. Because you have a life too, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that was second grade.
Yeah. And moving back over to Oak Ridge, fourth grade boys, such a fun division to coach this year, or to be commissioner over this year. I start with Corey Dugan because I've known Corey for a long time. And
he probably has the award for longest years coached
service
at the LC so far.
Yeah,
like presently,
sure.
I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And so much so that now I think Eli's 28 years old. I'm not sure, but Corey and Eli, they're a great team. They're a great father-son team. And I love, more than anything, more than watching Corey coach, or Eli coach for that matter, I love watching Corey and Eli interact. And I love that example for the boys to see, that father-son relationship. It is. And, they're, again, another good family, great family. And Corey is so good from the very beginning this year, before we even drafted teams or did any of that. You talked earlier about, coaches having grace, and there were plenty of times when he probably could have said, what you're doing or what y'all are doing is not right. And he does not take that approach at all. He was one of those coaches all year that was just very supportive of, even if it wasn't exactly right, he allows it, and he just swallows it. And there's, it was just great to work with that. And what a great job he does with his team. His son Everett plays on the team, and Everett is great. But you wouldn't know that Everett is his son. Like, Corey doesn't play favorites. Everett is a great shooter. But that ball gets spread around, and you could think every boy on that team was Corey's son. Yeah. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then, Chris Wyatt, what do you say about Chris? Parents show up to let Chris play on their team, and Chris has that intimidating presence. He's a big guy. And, from what I've seen of Chris coaching, just a gentle giant. He treats those kids so well. I did, from the year, I did get a laugh because he is on Gunner, his son, a lot. And I loved watching Gunner's response to Chris when Chris would say, hey, you got to hustle. And Gunner would turn around and be like, I am, he was just, and then Chris, to his credit, would be like, all right. It was, again, that father-son dynamic, it was good because it's not over the line. It's not meant to be like, very critical or anything like that. It's just, you watch your son and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of him. And Gunner's a great player. So I loved watching Chris. They went through some adversity this year where they lost a player off their roster, and Chris was like, we're good.
He was 100% supportive.
Yeah. And man, I'm just thankful for having that.
Yeah.
LeVar and Jacob, they coach the Hurricanes this year. They don't have a kid on the team. They're there out of just the
such great guys,
purity of heart. Another couple guys that I would now call my friends. And every time I walked away from a conversation with those guys, I walked away more encouraged. Watching them practice with their kids. I watched a lot of practices, Katrina, this season, and I would sit and watch a practice with LeVar and Jacob every night of the week. And the reason that is because it's not about basketball. I mean, there's a basketball component to it, but those kids absolutely loved coming to practice, and they had such a good time.
Yeah.
And LeVar and Jacob were playing with them. Yeah. They were right in the middle of it. And it warmed my heart just to watch how they, so much so that we actually went to them and said, hey, we're presenting the gospel at the last of the season. Can you guys, shoot that video for us on what it means? Just because they have such for where they are in age and tenure, they have such a mature grasp of life, not just kids, not just basketball, but life in general. And man, I can't say enough about those guys. RJ, you mentioned RJ already, and coaching 3 teams. One of my favorite moments this year was, he was already coaching his 2nd grade team and his 5th and 6th boys team. And we needed a 4th grade coach. And he's like, I'll do it. And we both were like, RJ, that's a lot. That's a lot. And he was like, I don't care. I'll do it. I'll do it. And so, we made it so that his practice night was Thursday night and all 3 practices. So he was here from, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Thursday night. And then again on Saturdays, he was doing the travel thing like you're talking about.
Yep. He was at all 3 locations.
Yeah. And the only thing that prevented him from being at every single game was the end of the season when just the logistics required that he couldn't be. And so I was fortunate enough to get to coach his 4th grade team one game. And then when I did, they were like, where's Coach RJ? Like those kids missed him because he has such a huge impact on their life. And then in the playoffs, again, he had a conflict. As soon as he finished that game, like he was texting me, he's like, what's the score? Where are we at? How are we doing? I'm on my way. And before halftime, like he shows up and those kids are like, hey, it's RJ, like they love him. And he just has such a passion for those kids.
And he's our best hype man.
He is far and away. And I used to, every week I would tell the coaches, I'm going to let you go first because once I give RJ the mic,
no doubt,
you don't want to follow that.
You don't want to follow him at all.
What a great guy. And I think he, more than anybody, was looking forward to the coaches versus coaches game. Like he wanted to showcase what he had, and he did a great job. So, and you mentioned Jared, Jared, phenomenal guy. I can't say anything else. I did get a kick out of, he had 2 Liams on his team this year, Liam Burrows and Liam Phillips, one of him being his own son. And Jared, kind of the same thing with Chris Wyatt. Jared would get on his son and his son would be like, I'm trying, and Jared was such a great disposition. Just, after the games, arm around his son, just there is no doubt in the mind of Liam Phillips that his dad loves him to death, and his dad is his hero. You can just see it. So you just, it just makes you, gives you goosebumps. And then Heather Arndondo.
The champs.
Man.
The 4th grade champs.
She had a fantastic team. She was so good. And, Heather, let me tell you something about Heather. Like early in the season, there was a close game and it wasn't going her way. And she was like, the calls are not where they need to be. And so after that happened, she came back to me and she was like, hey, I apologize if I was out of line, which, she wasn't. She was in the moment. But, the character that showed me was tremendous. And then since that moment, despite the fact that she had the better team every week, she was very cognizant of that. And she just had she just demonstrated great character, and great humility throughout it. And I loved watching her coach, and her son. They were a great team, all the way through, and didn't leave a doubt as to who the best team was in that division. They ran the wire and they were great.
I watched her practice several times, I think on Monday evenings. And man, like she just always came to practice with a smile on her face. And during practice, when boys were scrimmaging, like she kept the smile on her face. Like she genuinely enjoys coaching those guys. And it's not a task to her. Like it's fun.
Right.
And you can tell that by her smile.
Yeah. And, between the 4th grade boys and the 5th and 6th grade girls, I think overall, Oak Ridge was a success this year.
Agreed.
Very, very few distractions from what our mission is. And they, those guys at Oak Ridge allowed us to play there, and we can't say thank you enough. It was a great venue.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We, in taking a break from coaches, there's some people that help us week in and week out at the different locations. And the people, that I have in mind, they don't have a dog in the fight. As in they don't have a kid in the league.
Right.
They are just for what we're doing.
Right.
They're for kids and they love kids. Tammy Dudley.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was there every Saturday, probably before I was in the parking lot.
Yeah.
She was our game day announcer, that first shift. Just loves the kids, love to interact with them. I'm so appreciative of Tammy. We've been friends for a long time and just one of those people that would give anything, for you.
Right.
And just so humbled by her service.
Yeah.
Another one is Adrienne Alcon. Adrienne used to coach a kinder team.
Yeah.
And then I asked her, hey, what do you think about reffing kindergarten and then, helping, take score? And she was all for that.
Yeah.
Those consistent people that help out in a non-coaching role on Saturdays are just as important as those coaches because we depend on those people so much, whether to be the concession stand or the scoreboard, what they do and the time that they give matters. Another one goes by several different names. We can call him Captain Underpants. We can call him Ranger John.
Yeah.
We can call him Hibbs,
Yeah.
or he just goes by John Hibbs.
Right.
John Hibbs was that middle game day announcer on Saturdays at the LC, and I don't know. I guess I've been at the LC for 16 years, and I don't remember a season without him.
Yeah.
Whether it be flag football or basketball.
Right.
He's been a staple.
Yeah.
And those families love him.
Yeah.
Brings the best soul music over the sound system, and he loves kids.
That's
and
awesome.
He believes in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I just can't say enough about John Hibbs.
Absolutely.
He's so wise. Great dude.
Yeah. And I'll give a shout out, at Oak Ridge, Nick and Janet Martin every week. They're there. Our LC's own Weston Goodwin does a tremendous job. TJ Lewis, Michelle, my wife, the first couple weeks, bailed us out on some concession stand duty. There are just so many people that have a hand in it that don't have to at all. So appreciative of that.
Yeah.
It's what makes our league go. And most of the comments that we get, by the way, are for those people that don't get paid a cent.
Yeah.
That's what makes our league great.
Sure.
It's not you and I.
No. And Nick and Janet, they've been in the league for decades. Ever since Kyle Martin, their oldest, was there. Nick has coached. They've taken score for years. Another one of those is Robin and Alexis Crabb.
Yeah.
Alexis played basketball all throughout as she was growing up. And they were there every Saturday during that last LC shift, taking score, and keeping the books. And talk about sacrifice. They're sacrificing their time. And again, I'm just amazed. They don't have a dog in the fight.
Right.
But they believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And again, we want to provide a positive sports experience so that families can win,
Yeah. And by the way, that extends to our youth group and our college
100%.
team, that are showing up every week too.
Yeah.
It's great to be supported.
Yep, for sure. Well, to talk about girls a little bit more, 3rd and 4th grade girls, we have 3 teams. First shout out goes to Kelly Anderson, who coached the Cougars. She gets the award for just passion. Kelly has a heart like none other.
Yeah.
And she poured her heart into those girls this year. And it was so fun watching her interact with those girls at a timeout before the game. There's that mom-daughter relationship. I just felt like Kelly had that with all the rest of her players.
Yeah.
She genuinely cared about them.
Right.
And you can't ask more from a coach like that. Just so good.
Yeah.
Jesse Cantu and Jared Wellman. Jared's the pastor at Tate Springs and has been coaching with us and supporting us for years. Jesse also reps, but they have a 3rd and 4th grade girls team. Jesse just does a tremendous job preparing his girls. And I mean, as far as like coaching them up, just does a tremendous job.
Yeah.
I remember during evaluations, looking at some of these girls and just how far they've been, all the girls, not just Jesse and Jared's team, but all the girls and how they've advanced in skill. Like that's what you want to see in a basketball league.
Yeah.
And then to do that with love and care that Jared and Jesse do, it's super impressive.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the coach that stepped up last minute because we did not have a coach for this team, Mr. Charlie Hogue. Man, Charlie was another one of those. He also was commissioner of 5th and 6th boys, he and Chris Langford. Charlie was there, probably before we were on Saturday mornings half the time.
Yeah.
Because he, packed everything up, and prepared for Arlington Baptist University with the boys. Yeah. But he also coached a 3rd and 4th grade girls team. I can't remember if this is Charlie's first time coaching girls or not.
I don't know.
But he did a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Charlie gets the award, just for the teamwork aspect of it. Like he's a team player.
Yeah.
I feel like I keep saying this, but again, there's people that volunteer that, that don't get paid that have such an investment in this kingdom ministry that I'm just so humbled to be a part of.
Right.
And Charlie is one of those.
Yeah.
He took those 3rd and 4th grade girls, and he coached them up.
Yeah. And
by game 7, he would call Superman, Superman, Superman. And that meant to go screen and stand like Superman, and they got a little ways to go with that.
But he started the ball rolling.
He started the ball. Yeah. He taught them what a screen was,
right.
and just did a tremendous job for sure.
Yeah.
He's coached for years for us.
Right.
Again, he's another one that has coached ever since I've been here.
Yeah.
And it's just solid in what he does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He's such a great guy. And that's not just basketball. Like when Charlie puts his mind to do something, just stand back. He's going to do it, and he's going to do it well.
Yeah. And, if you just go by looks alone, you can't do that, right?
Yeah,
because I mean, like, he's a man's man, and it's got the deep voice and, all those things. But like at heart, his heart is so tender and just wants to do the right thing and to serve God.
Right.
And that was shown by just every single hour that he poured into this basketball league.
Yeah.
He and Chris both just did a tremendous job.
Yep.
So that's the girls.
All right. And then 5th and 6th grade boys. Again, this is, where Chris and Charlie were kind of overseeing that. And another great venue at ABU that was new to us this year. Mm-hmm. Both of these places stepped up for us to help us out this year because our league has grown so big. And they, Charlie and Chris, again, you can't say enough about them. The coaches that are in that league, and I'll start with the champions. My son a couple years ago played with these guys, but Coach Easley and Coach Smith, at the very beginning of the season, because I wasn't with them at that venue, I didn't have a great grasp on what was going on, but I started hearing through the grapevine, do you know that they got their kids' shoes and warm-ups and all of this stuff? And I was like, what?
That stresses the league administrator out right there because they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But let me tell you something about these guys, and I'm certain they're gonna watch or listen to this podcast. My son still talks today about those guys. Mm-hmm. They had a player in the league this year that came to their practices to help out because he played with them before. And
he's on a different team.
On a different team that played him in the championship game.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy the following that they get. And and don't get me wrong, they're not buying these kids off with shoes. They do that.
Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah. Very.
There's no NIL deal.
No.
LC deal or Wolverines deal or any of that's happening.
No, they
should not.
They are pouring into these kids in such a way that these kids don't forget them. Mm-hmm. And they want to come back and help. And for a 6th grade basketball coach to have that kind of an influence on these kids is just tremendous. Never mind the fact that they win every single year because of the way that they coach. They're tremendous basketball coaches. They're tremendous at influencing these kids. It is remarkable to watch them work.
Yeah.
Again, another guy that I would call a friend at this point, and just the way that they go about their business is tremendous. So
yeah, on Saturday, this past Saturday, game was over. We were packing up the the concession stand.
Yeah.
And I looked over from the concession stand and I saw Coach D embrace Brian Glaze,
the player we were talking about. Yeah.
Who was on the opposing team.
Yeah.
And so this is an opposing coach hugging an opposing player.
Right.
And just it was just I just stopped for a second and watched and I was like, you know what, this matters. This relationship that they've built.
Right.
That matters.
Right.
And that spoke volumes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Just can't say enough good things about them. The Bulldogs and Coach Hurst. This was one of my favorite stories of the year because they got down. First of all, they were a good team. They were a really good team. And then we get down to the playoffs and they earned a high seed in the playoffs. And, I talked to Derek at practice and he was like, we're in trouble because I don't know if we're going to be able to field a team in this first round of the playoffs because we have this school competition that several of our players are at.
Week 7.
Yeah, week 7. And so, he was like, I just don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to try.
Yeah.
And then the morning of, he emails us and says, I've got a sick player too. We just aren't going to have the ability to put 5 players on the court. And so it was really, really tough for him to make that, admission. And so they had to forfeit. And so I thought, okay, well, they'll mail it in the last week of the season. They show up for practice the following week. They play their game. And Derek is the consummate professional.
Yeah.
Just another one of those guys that doesn't get, too wound up about anything. He's all about his players. He's all about doing the right thing. Never once did he consider, let's just pack it in because we had to forfeit in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah. They came out and they played that last week of the season. And, that to me, that was about press on. Yeah. Like that was the definition of press on even through that adversity. So I thought he did a great job.
Personalities. They're pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do. And, one of my favorite things was, he kept saying, well, we do have the best hair in the league, from picture day on, like that was their claim to fame.
Derek also has great style in shoes.
Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah. And then the Cougars and Coach Sertis. I had a conversation with Sertis during another game that he wasn't playing in. I was asking him how his game went that day, and one of the things that sticks out to me about Sertis is Sertis also, like his wife Kelly, is very passionate about how he goes about things. But he said, "I'm going to coach them the right way. They're going to know when they leave this team how to play basketball the right way." And he said, we're not cutting corners, anything like that. That's who Sertis is.
Yeah,
and
100%.
For my everlasting memory of Sertis is, no matter how many years I know him from here on out, is going to be a man that truly believes in what he says and is going to carry that with him. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. So.
Yeah. And they were a good team too.
Yeah.
Sertis and Kelly and Josh McDonald.
Yes. Yes. Josh, another good guy.
Yeah. Josh helped a lot in practices on Thursday, and Kelly did too. So they were just a great team that just molded really, really well together. Yep,
absolutely.
Yep. I was at the LC usually on Monday nights, and I got to watch Gabe of the 5th and 6th. Was it Pirates? Was he a Pirate?
Gabe Quintana.
Yeah. Was he a Pirate?
I don't remember.
Man, yeah.
They all run together now.
Too many Pirates.
Yeah.
Gabe was a first-time coach. He's also a pastor, and that's another guy that really understood the assignment.
Yeah.
I not only did I get to watch his practice and how well he ran his practice, But, Chris Langford, which again, Chris and Charlie, they oversaw 5th and 6th grade boys. Chris Langford told me that he just really enjoyed how Gabe always kept coaching his boys from the perspective of, Chris would always hear Gabe say, when his player shot a ball, hey, I like it, I love it, or I'll take it, know?
Yeah.
Dude, you can't find a better guy than Gabe.
Right.
He's down to earth. He's passionate.
Yeah.
He understands, that this is a recreational league and the purpose.
Yeah.
And there were 2 Monday nights in which I overheard his practice devotion, and trying to wrangle 5th and 6th boys at 8:00 at night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard,
right?
And talk about Jesus when they're there for basketball.
Yeah,
it's hard,
right?
But he did it in such a way that it was quick, it was to the point, and they understood what they were there for, and just cannot say enough good things about Gabe.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Agree.
Yeah. Another guy that has been in our league for what seems like ages is Mr. Sean Cranford.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Cranford and his assistant Christopher, they led the Hurricanes in the championship game. 5th and 6th boys.
Yeah.
By the way, that game was there was a lot of testosterone in that game.
There was, and my favorite memory of Coach Cranford this year was that championship game beforehand, and "We Will Rock You" was playing on the speakers, and I look over, and I think Sean thought he was going in. Like he was bouncing up and down.
Ready.
He was ready. Like he was feeling it. Oh yeah,
he was ready. Yeah. Sean is somebody again who does not have a dog in the fight.
Right.
But he has he's coached for a lot of years, and he went into the draft not having any kind of advantage whatsoever.
Right.
But he was given the team that he had, and he coached them up in such a way that they arrived to the championship game.
Yeah.
And was just super impressed.
And he had Chris Rivera.
Yep.
Who we put together those 2 at the beginning of the season. They had never met.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. Yeah. That's hard to coach a team when you've never met the assistant coach or the co-coach, as it were. And they did a fantastic job gelling.
Yeah. Another example of that was RJ and Janae.
Yes.
Again, Janae's son played on RJ's team, and Janae coached. And, RJ's words, how he described that to me was that there was just so much chemistry between the 2 of them, know?
Yeah.
And, Janae did a tremendous job in helping out with the team and encouraging, and I watched her as she practiced with them several Thursday nights, and she was just in it, like she was running plays with them, like she was hands on, and RJ too. And I love that about her, and just her heart and her her convictions are just spot on.
And Janae also, by the way, schooled some guys on the coaches versus coaches game. Yeah, she's great. Love her
for sure. Yep. Anthony Witcher, he led the Aztecs, and he has a son on the team, and Anthony's coached with us before, and again, another guy that just understands the assignment. You know, he gives it his all. He has a ton of heart, and was just really impressed by what he was able to do with the Aztecs this year.
Yeah, and I was blown away, and I mean blown away at the devotional that I watched Anthony Witcher do with his kids. Like he had a video set up. He talked about it with them. And it wasn't just one of these, hey, let me get through this so we can get to basketball. Like he was teaching y'all.
Yeah.
He was great. Yeah. I just was blown away by how he did that. Yeah. So good guy.
Last team, the Gators, Mr. Thomas Eck and Adam. They practiced on Tuesday nights, and they had a tremendous squad, full of integrity, taught basketball, and I'm glad they came back this year. I love those guys. Yeah,
Tom and Adam are those guys that you want to live in their neighborhood, so that your kids can just run around free. Because if they're around Tom and Adam, they're going to pick up integrity, and they're going to pick up things from them that you can appreciate as a father. So just great guys through and through. And Adam, coaches baseball as well. And he would be one of those guys that I would let my son go with, for the weekend and not think twice about it. Yeah.
It says a ton.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't end this podcast without giving Mary Dixon and Karen Bondurant a shout out.
Yeah.
They spent the most time scorekeeping and doing the books at Arlington Baptist University.
Yeah.
So they're friends of mine. They're crazies.
Right.
They have a ton of personality, and they were just the right fit for Arlington Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
They can take this testosterone, if you will, from 5th and 6th grade boys, and just roll with it.
Yeah.
One of my most favorite memories was Richard Cale. He reffed until he got injured in the coaches game. But he got everybody like little figurines of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
This was like week 2.
Yeah, I still have them on my desk.
Yeah, you have 2 of them.
Yeah.
I think that you have mine. I need my Jesus back.
Okay, I'll give you. You do need Jesus. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, Mary Dixon sent me a picture of her Jesus, or I think posted it on social media. But those ladies are spot on.
Yeah.
They are the epitome of fun, and the epitome of not taking themselves seriously at all.
Right.
And along with Richard Cale, Richard Cale he ref 4 games, I believe, until he got hurt, and just did a tremendous job in teaching those boys. Yeah. Once they made a call, teaching them, the reason why I made the call, and was just so grateful for them for sure.
Yep.
Another one that I'll mention also is Miss Loretta Ross. If you're at the LC on Saturdays, that from like 8:30 to about 12 o'clock, you saw this probably 5-foot lady with red hair directing traffic and organizing teams. Miss Loretta has been our she had been our children's pastors for several years, and has just been at Lake Church for decades upon decades. And she loves kids, and she loves families. And she's one of those that she's consistent. She's a cornerstone of our league, really. Yep. And has a heart of gold. And this Saturday mornings would not be the same without her.
Right. Yeah.
I'm certain of it, for sure.
She's one of the few people that I have to pay enough respect to call her Miss Loretta.
Yes.
It's not just Loretta.
I don't know anybody that calls her Loretta.
No.
It's always Miss Loretta.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you are at the LC on Saturday mornings, early Saturday mornings, I'm talking about like when the donuts are there, like super early.
Right.
We have the Wings Ministry. So if you saw an older lady between the hours of about 8:30 and 10:30, they're a part of our Wings Ministry. And Wings stands for Widows in God's Service. And so they committed, as a ministry, they committed all 8 weeks, not only in basketball, but also in soccer season 2.
Yeah.
They just line up the ladies to help out in the concession stand. I can't tell you how much that means to me that they would value our ministry as one to invest in. Yeah. And it gives them life.
Yes.
On Saturday mornings, just as much as it gives me life.
Yes.
So it's good. Did we miss anybody?
3rd grade boys.
3rd grade boys.
Yeah.
Let's end it with 3rd grade boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
3rd grade boys, we had 6 teams. Todd, thanks so much of helping me remember that. 3rd grade boys, we had, I guess another one of my favorite stories is Mr. Mark Mangrum and Heather.
Yes.
And how they led the Bulldogs.
Hannah.
I'm sorry, Hannah. Hannah, I did that another time to her. Thank you, Todd, for correcting me. So Mark did some research. Mark Mangrum, he's a pastor at Gospel City. Mark did some research on where I played basketball in high school.
Yeah.
And so Mark was probably the only coach at the LC in which when we did player introductions, he took the mic and he did it for his team.
Yeah.
I know that's common in 5th and 6th boys, and Oak Ridge, right?
Yeah.
But it's not common at the LC. So so one Saturday, Mark took the mic, and with me standing right beside him, he named out like all of the high schools that I played up against. As a high school player. Like this has been 20 years ago. Yeah. And he references Lewisburg and Bunn and Franklinton, and these are all towns in which I had rivals.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing?" And he just kind of chuckled. And so Mark has a great personality. I also really just enjoy, I can't tell you how many times I saw Mark look at the opposing coach during his game and nodded at him and said, "Oh man, that was a good play, coach. That was a good play."
Yeah.
And so
Mark was our original coach of the week this year.
He was the very first one. Yeah, he did a great job for sure. And then what about the Roach boys?
Oh my gosh. So at the beginning of the season, Jason Roach reaches out to me and he's like, "Hey, my son, he wants to coach."
Yeah.
And, I'm like, "Well, your son's in junior high," and he's got 2 boys. And so I thought, well, I don't know how this is going to work, but I told Jason, I said, if you're there on the bench, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it can be difficult to coach with parents, because a lot of times parents feel like my kid is not getting the playing time they want, or, fill in the blank. Right. And so you got to have some thick skin. And I wasn't sure that a teenage guy was going to be able to handle that.
I wasn't sure either.
And let me tell you, I think I speak for both of us when I say we were blown away.
They were great.
They were fantastic. They won Coach of the Week during the season.
Yeah.
They're on the court, constantly just urging their team on.
Yeah.
They're so positive, everything they did. And I watched Jason stay in the background and let his kids coach, but he kept track of, player minutes and substitutions and all that. Just a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Just, so great. Such a great thing.
Ton of passion.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah. We've mentioned Chase and his first grade team. He also coached the 3rd grade. He coached Owen's team, his older son.
Yeah.
And again, just a guy with just a tremendous amount of just, focus and teaching them basketball, and also just such a big heart. His assistant coach, Jason Smith, he gets the award for nicest smelling every Saturday. Jason Smith, you get the award for just the nicest cologne.
Yeah.
Like, you smell good on a Saturday going into a 3rd grade boys game.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, Jason Smith, he also is a good side hugger.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He's kind. He's very kind.
I'm not going to give him an award for how he smells or how he hugs, but I will
I don't know.
I will agree that he is maybe the nicest guy I've ever met. Like, that guy,
And that's another family that I will sincerely miss.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
His cologne, No, I'm kidding.
That's funny.
Yeah. Another one we had, Mr. Zach Terry. He was a last minute coach that, we quote unquote wrangled him.
Yes, we did.
Into, he didn't want to coach, but, understood that we needed someone, and he stepped in, and he had tremendous patience throughout the season. He's shown, sacrifice just in giving his time and coaching.
Right.
And, I had the pleasure of watching his practice several times, and he always had a practice plan, and he stuck to it. And he was a great coach.
Yeah, he really was. I was always impressed with how he handled himself on the bench.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. A team that didn't win much.
Yeah.
And character is revealed, when you don't win much.
Yeah.
And that's a man that I can say, his character is pretty high.
And another guy that had a son on the team that I really enjoyed watching that dynamic.
Oh, yes.
He and his son
Noah. Yeah. Oh, man. He was such a hard worker.
Yeah.
He is such a hard worker.
Yeah. In fact, it was said about him, hardest working guy on the court.
I said it.
Yeah. Was it you?
I said it. Yeah. Noah Terry was possibly, he was a hustler, and just to give that much, without much in return, as far as W's are concerned.
Right.
The Gators also were similar. You had Parker Hayes.
Yeah.
Man, that kid gave and gave and gave and gave and gave.
Parker Hayes spent as much time on the actual court, on the floor, as he did upright.
He did. A hustler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went all out. Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing can be said for Nate Monty. The Hurricanes. He's on the Hurricanes, and they were coached by Trenton Reed and Angelo. Yeah. And they were 2 men that were just so passionate. They gave everything that they had into that team. And just such a great group of guys right there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
And then I think that there's probably one more.
Cliff.
Cliff. He was the last coach of the week last week.
Right.
a guy that coached one team and then assisted two more.
Yeah.
How did I forget Cliff? He literally was undefeated in third grade.
Yeah.
He was the undefeated coach, the Wolverines.
Never have I seen a coach more excited about the fact that his team was able to run his offense.
But you know what? Like he coached in a way in which he just gave them nuggets at a time.
Yeah.
And I respect that. And that's something that I think kids responded well to was, like he introduced his offense a little bit at a time and then introduced another, layer to it and then another layer to it.
Right.
And so the kids were able to pick up layer by layer, game by game.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what made them most successful.
For sure.
Was his ability to understand their capacity and what they were able to comprehend and then add to that once they got it.
And it's fun to watch. In a perfect world, obviously we'd have one coach, per every team. And Cliff was another one of those, like you mentioned, that there's multiple layers, assisting on two other teams and coaching a team. And, those people are valued like gold.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the kind of character and integrity that someone like Cliff does.
Yeah.
Just because that's what it's all about. Like, I mentioned letting my kid go with Adam if Adam asked, but like, having coaches that have that kind of impact, that high impact on these kids, and as an example of character and integrity, you can't measure that.
Yeah.
And man, we had that in just abundance this year.
Yeah. They're not perfect.
No.
Yeah, they're not perfect coaches.
No.
If you're a parent and you witness some things that you wish that you had not. We're not perfect.
Right.
Not a perfect league at all. There's always room for improvement.
So please stop with the hate mail for me. No, I'm kidding. But you're right. You're right, and that goes not just for the coaches, but for us and for the refs.
Yeah.
And the volunteers. I mean everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But everybody's trying.
Yeah. Todd, what I most was just so impressed by you was just how you handled the change of ref situation that we had at Oak Ridge. We had some not so good refs at Oak Ridge at weeks 1 through 4. And we ended up, getting rid of them. But the way that you handled the parents that had the bad experience at the practice the next week spoke volumes to so many parents. And really changed for that location in those two divisions, 4th grade boys and 5th and 6th girls. That changed the trajectory of the entire season when you stepped up and did that. So
one thing, like I said, I've learned a lot this year. I've learned a tremendous amount. But the one thing that is constant and static that doesn't change is how you treat people. And so like you said, we're not perfect. And I have walked away from conversations this year where I think, man, I wish I would have handled that differently. But it always comes back to, do you respect the other person enough to treat them with respect?
Exactly.
Like, do you hold that other person across from you in high regard? Either way, it's a people business.
Yeah.
And we make no bones about sharing our faith. And if we're going to do that, then we better be on point when it comes to how we treat people.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't change. Didn't learn that this season, but certainly, there are times when we had to apply it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, it's about people, it's about relationships, but also with an understanding of it's a whole different capacity to empathize with someone when you throw competition into the mix, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a scenario that last game day where I was reffing and a coach, saw something that we did too.
Yeah.
That as a ref, I reffed. We saw it. We blew the whistle. But just understanding like that when a coach, raises their voice in trying to stick up for their team, they're doing it, in a way that like they want their kid to get the call, right? Like they want to get it right.
Yeah.
So as a ref, I think this season I learned, like, listen, like they're just trying to do their best for their team, and understanding their position when they're coming in, but also being able to quickly dissolve, the conflict there very easily by saying, "Hey, coach, we got it."
Right.
which is something that I admire in Renee.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
we had in
for sure.
6 boys.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
he was able to do that.
Yeah.
Refs have to have pretty thick skin.
Yes, they do.
And the refs that we had this year at ABU and also at Oak Ridge, they had pretty thick skin, as well as Jeff Ward and Jesse Cantu and Jared Phillips all had tough skin.
Right.
Vernon too, he had some pretty thick skin at times.
Yeah.
And I think I'm developing that thick skin.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know that we're now approaching a double episode here, but I will say, for those of you guys that are watching or listening, could not have worked for a better person. You guys all know Katrina pretty well, and she is the OG when it comes to this basketball league.
Or what right now?
Nobody cares more. Nobody cares more. Nobody works harder. And just trying to match that energy every week. It's a feat to do that, and you are to be congratulated. There are a lot of families out there that are affected in a positive way because of the way that you carry yourself and what you do. And after 16 years, you're still going out there to practices, at night and meeting with these parents and talking about life.
Yeah.
And so when I say I learn just as much from you as I did the actual season itself. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You have no idea how helpful you've been this season for sure. So we're just going to go out and change the sports world from here on out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to episode 9 of Winning with the Home Team. That's the end of basketball season, and there's more to come. So if you've not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe, or you can comment as well and just tell us what you think. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you soon.